Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video in which I answer your questions that you asked and submitted to me about being child-free by choice. That is, I am a woman who doesn't have children, who never wants children, and who will never have children. It is completely my choice. It's not like an infertility thing or anything like that. I just do not want kids. I don't see them in my future. They're not going to be in my future. Simple as that. I'm making these videos because I want to reduce the stigma around the topic. I want to normalize it. I want to help educate people a little bit more about my personal experience, the experiences of others, and just get people talking about it a little bit more and make sure people know that it's okay to not want to have kids. That's normal, that's fine, it's great. So let's jump straight into your questions. And today we're going to be answering some questions that you guys have asked me about things like adoption, fostering, and freezing my eggs and stuff like that. So these answers are going to be more about my personal experience, so please know the answers aren't indicative of every child-free person. Every child-free person is going to have different ideas, different things they want to do, different answers to these questions, different experiences. These are just mine. So one question I got asked was, would adoption be an option for you if you ever changed your mind? And the answer is simply, if I changed my mind, yes, but I can't see it happening. I've always said that, like, if I did ever have kids, they would probably be adopted because the idea of pregnancy and childbirth terrifies me. And I feel like with so many kids out there who need good homes, why would you bring a new one into the world when there's already so many you can help, who need help, who aren't going to get it otherwise, you know? It's the same with dogs. Like, I didn't want to go to a breeder and buy a new puppy. I went to a shelter and adopted an older dog because they needed it more. You know, they needed the help. Why bring a new dog into the world and pay for that when there's already dogs out there who need help and need a home? And it was the best decision I ever made. I love Kyra so much. I think she's amazing. I think adoption is a fantastic thing to do, and I thoroughly encourage more and more people to do it. I know in some ways it can be more challenging, but I also think it's more rewarding and does more good overall. That said, I still don't think I ever would change my mind. I can't see me ever actually wanting kids or wanting them in my life. So I still don't think it's something I would do, but if I did, I would rather adopt than have a biological kid. This kind of links onto another question I got that said, it was like, do you think you'll change your mind? Would you consider adoption? Or do you feel it won't be the same for you, that you'll regret not having a kid that is biologically yours? And this links to another question I got, which was, what are your thoughts on the whole you need to continue the bloodline thing that we're sometimes told or pressured to do? And I think this is a really, really interesting question because this is something that I see spoken about a lot online. And interestingly, it's a lot of men's rights activists, pickup artists, people like Andrew Tate, Rush V, kind of those like, oh, I'll teach you how to be a man type stuff. A lot of them push this narrative of, you need to get your DNA out there, you need to pass it on to the next generation, you need to continue the bloodline, and all this stuff. And I just think it's very egotistical. I think it's very selfish, and I don't get it. I don't understand what it is about some people where they think their own DNA is so special that it needs to go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It's just, I'm sure they have their reasons, I just don't get it myself. I don't understand it. I think when I look at my own DNA, I see a hell of a lot of problems with it, you know? Like, I am autistic, and that's not a problem, but I also know that it does cause some problems that I wouldn't want other people to go through, like my sensory issues and stuff are things that I wouldn't wish on anyone else. There are other health problems as well, like there's a huge history of breast cancer in my family on both sides, and so like for me personally, I constantly have this worry where I feel like it's not necessarily a matter of if I get breast cancer, but when, which sounds a little pessimistic, but it's such a worry and a fear for me that it's something I'm quite mindful of. And because there is that genetic component there, I feel like if I ever had kids, they'd also likely be at risk. And there's a lot of other factors as well, and a lot of other things going on. And so I think there are a lot of genetic things about me that I wouldn't want to pass on to another generation. I don't think I'm that special that I have anything that needs to continue and be passed on that I can't just teach to other people, you know? Like, I think I'm quite compassionate, and I think I am intelligent, and I think I do have some good ideas about the world, and I think I do create some good stuff, and I hope I can use that to teach people, to inspire future generations, to give to charities that'll help people, but they're the ways I want to pass on, I guess, my legacy, rather than through DNA and any biological stuff, you know? So yeah, I don't think I'd ever regret not having a biological kid. In fact, I think I'd more likely regret it. The next question is kind of linked to the first one, and that's, how do you feel about short-term fostering, especially older kids? Again, maybe this is something I would consider when I'm much more older. Much more older? Just much older. And when I'm a lot more financially stable and better off. I think, again, it's a possibility that I might do, and it appeals to me a lot more than adoption or having like a biological baby. But again, it's also probably not something I can see myself doing. It's not something I have any definite plans for, and it's not something that I think is very likely. But out of everything, it's probably the most likely option. And yeah, I like the idea of helping people out who need it, like older kids and stuff. Next question is, what do you think of freezing eggs just in case? I think if that's something that you want to do, absolutely go for it, but it's not something I would ever do. I have absolutely no attachment to my eggs whatsoever, and if anything, I wish they were gone already, and I wish they weren't there. I spoke about this in another video where I spoke about wanting sterilization but not being able to get it, and yeah, I would never ever freeze my eggs. I don't see the need. I don't want them. I wish they weren't there. As I've already said, I'm not attached to my genetic material in any way, and I don't like them. I have considered maybe like donating eggs. That could be a nice thing to do, but then you have to like do the whole like injections and maybe not. Maybe it's not for me. I don't like things like that. But yeah, I would never freeze my eggs. But I get it if other people want to. And it's something that I've actually brought up to friends who like don't have partners but have said they might want kids at some point. I'm like, why don't you freeze your eggs? Like, that's a perfectly acceptable thing to do. But for me, it's just not necessary. Do not like. The next two questions are kind of linked, and they're quite long, but I'll read them out. So one person asked, do you have any siblings? If not, hypothetically, would you accept responsibility for their children should something happen? And that was the only option other than putting them in the system. And the next question is, what would you do in a hypothetical scenario where a child of a friend or family member was in need of long-term accommodation / a guardian due to some kind of tragic circumstance, and you were the safest, most accessible or available person they could turn to before being put in the foster system? Would you take them in? For how long? Would you find somebody you trusted that could be the guardian instead? Would you need to involve the foster system? Okay, so I have a brother and sister. My brother has 2 kids at the moment. I think about 8 and 3 or something like that. I don't know. I'm bad with ages. They're okay kids. They're fine. They're there. They're okay. And that's about it. I don't have any friends with kids. Yeah, that's it. For me to end up looking after them if something happened to my brother and sister-in-law, like, my entire family would need to have been wiped out, I know my sister would be a way better guardian than me. I know my sister-in-law Rachel has a brother and sister of her own. We both have parents, or like Rachel has her dad. My parents are still alive. There's all that stuff. I just think there are many other people ahead of me who would be much better guardians than me. I would not be a good parent. I would not be able to look after them. I couldn't do it. It wouldn't make sense. Plus, Warren and Rachel are very active within their church, and they have a lot of friends, and a lot of close friends who have kids as well, and kids who are friends with my niece and nephew, and I think they would probably be a better call than me. That would not uproot the kids because they could stay down in Brighton where they live. They could stay with their friends. They're much more aware of those people and close with those people and feel safer with those people than they would me. So I can't see any situation where it would make sense for them to end up living with me. Like, at all. There are people that they're closer with, people who are better equipped for looking after them, other people in the family, friends, everyone that it would come to before me. You would have to kill like 100 people before they would end up with me. I know that sounds horrible, but yeah. I can't see any circumstance where any of this would happen. It's not likely, and I wouldn't be prepared to take in a child. I wouldn't be able to take in a child or 2. Yeah, I'm not in a position where I could do that. I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't enjoy doing that. And it's just not very likely. So, yeah. When I say I want to be child-free, I mean, like, I really don't want any kids immediately near me in my life. on a regular basis or anything like that. Like, we discussed dating and stuff in my last video, and I went on a date with this one guy. He seemed really nice, and then he made a comment halfway through the date about how he basically raises his, I don't know if it was niece or nephew, but his sister's kid. He was like, yeah, I basically raised them. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I pick them up from school every other day, and I do this and I do this, and I look after them all the time, and they live with me for this many days a week. And I was like, you're not okay with this. I got major ick, and I was like, nope, and I didn't want to see him again, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, having a kid that much in your life is not something that appeals to me. It's not something I've wanted in my own life, and I was like, no thank you. So, and now for the really, really big question. What's your reason specifically for not wanting kids? And similarly, what is it about having a child that puts you off? Does it have something to do with your childhood and how you were brought up? Basically, why don't I want kids? This is a question I get asked constantly, all the time. I used to get asked it by dates all the time. I get asked it in my comment section a lot and constantly. I get messages on Instagram with people asking me. I get emails of people asking me. And again, I find it very interesting because in general, people don't ask this of women who want kids. When people say they want kids one day, people don't turn around and say, but why? Why do you want them? Why specifically do you want kids in your life? Why do you want to be pregnant? Was it something in your childhood? And so I do think it's this double standard, and it's because there is this stigma around not wanting kids. So, my reasons for not wanting kids are multiple, more than I have time to say in this video. I don't want to be pregnant. Pregnancy scares me. Childbirth scares me. I hate the idea of something living inside my body. I hate the idea of giving birth. I hate the idea of my body being changed in that way and getting huge and stretched. I hate the idea of potential ripping during childbirth. I hate the idea of breastfeeding. That grosses me out. I just can't imagine feeding someone from my body. I find that repulsive. I don't really enjoy being around children. I don't really understand children. I don't connect with children. I don't look at a baby and think, oh, that's cute. I look at it and think, okay, it's there. Just like you look at a duvet and think, okay, it's there. Like, I don't have that like emotional connection where I think, oh, I'd like one of those myself, or oh, I enjoy being around that. I'm just like kind of indifferent. Like, I'd rather it wasn't near me, because I find babies loud and messy. I don't like dealing with like kids with like messy faces with like food on them, or the snot, or the dribble, or the puke. All of that repulses me. I don't want to be near it. I don't like it. I hate it. When I think about my future, or like you see things on TV of people with kids, and it's always like you have to get the kids up for school, you have to take them to school, you have to go to school events, you have to buy baby clothes, you have to buy kids clothes, you have your house filled with kids stuff. Like, none of that appeals to me. I don't want any of that. I don't like any of that. When I think of my future, I think of myself traveling and working and creating and making stuff and like doing charity work and just enjoying myself, and I don't see kids ever being a part of that. I don't really enjoy spending time around kids. I don't connect to them. I don't get them. I've never had any like maternal instincts. I've never enjoyed being around children. I just don't really get them, and I don't want them, and that's it. I think it's hard for some people to understand because enjoying being around children comes so naturally to some people. But for me, when you see like families in the park like all playing games together and having fun and all that stuff, and like there's a disconnect there for me because I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. I don't get what's fun about that. I don't want that for myself. So I think where people don't understand why I don't enjoy being around children, I'm like, okay, but now imagine that in reverse. I don't get why you enjoy being around children. I don't see the appeal. And it's not that I'm cold and heartless or anything like that. Like, I get so much enjoyment out of being around my amazing friends and seeing my friends achieve the most incredible things and being with my partner. And I love physical affection, and I like the closeness and the intimacy and that bond and connection and friendship and being silly with someone and sharing experiences with them. I love looking after Kyra. When I look at her, it's like, it's my dog, but it's like, I didn't realise my heart could feel so full. I didn't realise I could love someone so much. Every time I see her face, I just feel pure joy and love, and I think she's the most wonderful person in the world, and I love every minute we spend together. And I think the way that I feel about Kyra is the way that maybe some people feel about their kids, but I get like a small amount of that feeling every time I see any dog, you know, where I'm like, oh God, I want to be near you. I love spending time with you. I want to pet you. I want to get to know you. And I think some people get like that around any kid, and then it's more special when it's their own. I've never had that around any child where I've wanted to be near them or I've enjoyed being near them, whereas with dogs I do, and it's just more special and more intense and more beautiful with Kyra. It's quite funny because when I was younger, everyone always told me like, oh, well, you know, you'll experience it more, you'll get used to it when you are actually around kids. And then I as I've spoken about in other videos, I had to do my work experience in a nursery, and I hated it. And I was like, nope, this isn't special, this isn't nice, this isn't enjoyable, do not want. So then it changed to my mum saying things like, oh, well, it'll be different when they're your own family, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so when Warren, my brother, had his kids, again, I still didn't like feel this connection to it. I was like, okay, it's a baby, but I don't really see the appeal. Like, how can I know that I like them or like love them when they're not really displaying any personality yet? I was like, obviously you're protective of them because they're kids and they're your family and stuff, but didn't really know who they were. So like, how could I like have this deep bond with them that everyone kept telling me I should have? So I just didn't have it. And then like my mum was saying things like, oh, well, it'll be different if it's one of your own. I'm like, I don't think it will. I think maybe there's just a part of me that doesn't get kids and babies and doesn't want to connect with them, doesn't enjoy it. And it's okay for me to say, I don't want that in my life. Simple as that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just who I am. Some people love kids, some people don't. And as I've said in other videos, I don't actively hate kids or dislike them or anything like that. I would never wish harm upon a kid. I'm very protective of kids and their safety and want all kids to be safe and looked after and loved, but it's not something I want in my life for myself. And I think that's okay. But with that very intense little speech there, I mean, obviously there's other reasons as well, I haven't covered everything, and the reasons are going to be different for every person, but with that little intense speech, this is where I am going to end this video. Thank you for watching today. If you like this video, it would be incredible if you left a like, left a comment, because that really helps with engagement. Please subscribe if you're new here or you want to see more content like this, because I am going to hopefully be continuing to make this series as I get more and more of your questions in. I have other videos in this series as well. I also create videos about book reviews, about poetry, about science, history, feminist stuff, atheist stuff, basically anything you can think of that interests me and that is fun. And I have lots and lots of stuff out there. I have some cool playlists if you want to check them out. I have like a channel highlights, I have a hidden gems playlist, which is one of my favorites. They're the videos that don't really have clickbaity titles, so they haven't got a lot of views, but are covering really, really interesting topics. There's some really cool video essays in there, and I think they're some of my favorite videos on the channel. So if you want to check out my other stuff, I recommend you start there, or just have a browse around, see what you like. But for now, thank you so much for watching today. I will see you again very, very soon, and yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.